I'd like to take a moment and thank all the volunteers who volunteered tonight so that we run the show smoothly, right? So starting with the registration desk, we had amazing serving leaders, Chaitali, Prakash, Priyanka and Dana. At floor duty we had Deepak and Jesse. For ushers we had Nishant, Nimal, Tanmoy and Avishi. AV we had Shrey, Raj, Preksha and Rahul. So how about we do now? Thank you all the volunteers for serving unconditionally and stepping up to volunteer on those events. We are having a special training tonight. It can go up to an hour long, just because we are having some demos. For those who may need to live in between, please do so quietly and taking a seat at the back. Now moving on, who thought there was a phenomenal sharing? Such a value-added talk. I'm totally humbled and honored to host them tonight. Love this storytelling, amazing examples, messages, and total command over language. I would say you have done the talk so smoothly and so nicely. We could feel it was very professional yet so personal. So thank you once again for adding so much value here. And before we move on, I would like to just take a moment to appreciate this couple. They have mastered the process, having a huge momentum in the team, moving on big time. Leveraging the process in the business. They always inspire us with your work ethics, phenomenal talk even. And we would like to invite onto the stage to share some insights about follow-up. Amazing speakers, Ajeya and Madhumita.
Wow, excellent. Thank you so much, Megha. I think you're very humbled to be here, and I guess we just want to give our gratitude to all those who have, all the leadership here who have allowed us to be here and speak to such fine audience. So thank you so much for being here, listening and laughing on the jokes that are repetitive. But let's hear for Megha. What a phenomenal person. And thank you so much to all the volunteers. I know I understand what humility is when I actually come in this room, because no matter where you are within the business, people come out today, this morning. I know Nick was helping me with the mic, and Deepak and Megha were trying to understand and asked us, if we needed any more water, and Dashan has been coordinating. I can only say that you've got the most humble leadership, and there's nothing but growth that can happen from here, right? Well, without taking a lot of your time, I'm just going to get straight into the topic today. We'll set some scene, give you a little bit of an understanding of what we're trying to do, and you guys are welcome to asking questions. We'll probably give you a last 10 minutes, if there is time left, to ask any questions. But what I essentially want you to take a note of is this is how the training is going to actually operate. Next 5 odd minutes, I'm going to give you some understanding of what are the driver seat principles. I'll give you some understanding of what they are. Now, I want you to understand when I'm doing the demo or a discussion with the couple, which I'm going to invite very shortly, is I want you to understand what principle I have applied. Don't get stuck on the framework, but apply the principle, because if you knew what the principle was, you can easily apply it throughout the process and be easily able to vet the candidates. Okay? Now, I'm going to talk to you about the driver seat principles, but at the same time, the first 5 minutes I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to invite upon, and we're going to do a follow-up one. Is everybody across what follow-up one is?
Yeah.
Right? 2 to 5 year plan. So we're going to discuss about that, and essentially we're going to do what we usually do for our organization, and more or less It's going to be with a bit of a tweak depending on what time it is. Usually it takes about 45 minutes. At this stage, you would have gone through MG1, MG2 team evaluation. A lot of things would have come up. Amway would have come up. Team MG2, Amway would have come up. We would have addressed a large portion of those. But there's a possibility that somebody is hung up upon those elements. So follow-up one is essentially what other questions you might have. What are you hopeful for? What is it that you are actually looking for? And that is what we're going to discuss today. But I just want to give you understanding of where we stand with that. With the driver's seat principles, right? It's very important to understand, and these are something Dean and Marcy have actually said. I know Dom and Karina have actually shared at the recent BBS, and I'm sure everybody has been paying attention to that. Seek first to understand before being understood. That means if Dom was giving a great example. If somebody was coughing, it's not like you can actually walk in and say you've got cancer or you've got TB or whatever else that is. So understand, what has happened. If somebody is not there at an appointment, ask, why are we not there? Why couldn't we make it? Seek to understand before being understood, so that when you speak, they're listening. Okay? Grab on and then add on. It's no different. So just all it means is be a good listener. Okay? So before you can add in, a lot of times, and I don't know if I can use this term in the training, but we've got verbal diarrhea. Right? We just blurt out whatever we know, and there you go. So don't be in a hurry to share that information. Do a checkbox. I've done blah and blah. The process is complete and move on. No, because you know what? We are eventually earning partnerships, and at the same time, you're building a business which is going to be long-term sustainable. As a result, the more effort you put in the front end, the less effort you will put in the back end. What I mean by that is you will never be picking up your phone and asking somebody to come to a F&H or a workshop or whatever else. Okay? Take the food off the table. Don't be afraid to say, hey, you know what? No, as a matter of fact, today we actually pulled the plug on 2 partners, right? And we actually said to them very clearly, not partners, but they were going through the wedding process, and we mentioned to them that, hey, you know what? At this stage, we don't feel comfortable that we can extend out an offer into mentorship, right? We don't feel comfortable because we believe that you do not have, and not in the same sense that you do not have, they did not have the ingredients that we were looking for: patience, prioritization, ability to build that trust, right? So don't be afraid to actually take the food off the table, which is what I'm going to show right now as part of the FP1, if an opportunity persists. Now, have grace with standards. Everybody knows this. Don't be essentially cocky about what you've got. Don't be cocky about who you're connected with. Be humble. I shouldn't be talking about humility. I think you guys have got the best leadership here, right? There's without a doubt. And don't be afraid to set that standards. A lot of times we have a lot of grace, and when we have a lot of grace, the relationship is based on, it's the partnership will be based on relationships, right? If you have a lot of standards and no grace, you're becoming too legalistic. You're supposed to be here at 10 o'clock and you're at 10:05, man, meeting cancelled, right? That's too legalistic. Understand, seek first to understand, okay? And commit last. So first take commitment. Are you in a position? Are you open? Are you available? Are you able to make time to be there at the entrepreneurship workshop? I'm going to make a few phone calls to check if there's an availability for a seat. Create that value for you, your mentors, people who are coming here. Don't just bring them here, right? Because it's probably unfair for a lot of others. It's probably unfair for the time that you're investing in here. Okay? Any candidates here? It's too late to ask them. All right. So what I want you to take away from this is those are the driver's seat principles. When I'm having a conversation and when I'm taking the couple through the FP1, I want you to understand which principles I have applied. So don't focus on what I have said, because that is going to be on recording, but I want you to focus on what principles have been applied, because that is going to be important. Because if you learn that art, you know what, process is going to be really smooth. You don't have to ever worry about MG2 or follow 1 or follow 3 or budgeting or whatever else. Because if you knew these principles, nothing can go wrong. Okay? All right, now let's, obviously the couple needs no introduction. They've kindly volunteered to be a subject for today, and they're going to be here, and we're going to do a follow 1, which is also what we call as an FP1, 2 to 5 year plan or roadmap to success. You call it whatever name that you want, but that is what we are essentially going to be working with. Now there might be a few tweaks. Large part of it is what we do with our organization. Okay, so I'm going to share exactly how we do it. Please check with your uplines if that is not something that you do. Please check with your uplines on how and before you make any changes, right? So let's have a round of applause for the lovely couple who has volunteered, Darshan and Priya. Yes, absolutely. So we're just going to be seated here, and so just a bit of a background, right? The MG1 has happened, MG2 has happened, team evaluation has happened. Essentially, we are at FP1, which is a follow-up 1, 2 to 5 year plan. I'm going to discuss a few things. Mostly at this session, it's a monologue. That means a person taking to the process. In this case, Madhu and I will be doing a monologue. It's no different to the training, but I just want you to understand. And this gives Darshan and Priya an opportunity to ask questions. So it's not scripted. It's just here. Darshan and Priya can ask anything. I don't know what they're going to ask. So I just want you to understand whatever they ask, how we apply some of those principles. Okay? So it's okay to get asked, and I might be paused for a little while, so please make sure you edit the videos. So that's about it. Anything you want to add, Darshan?
This is not about follow-up point, but the presentation you guys did tonight, I just felt like I got started again.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for coming here. I feel a bit nervous as well. It feels like I'm actually in follow-up point. And what questions will be asked to me? So I've done my homework. Whatever you have given to me. We actually had a discussion beforehand, just to give a bit of an idea to everyone. That Ajeya, I asked him, okay, so we have done this and this. Now, what is my homework for follow-up 1? So he's actually given me homework. I've done that, and we're going to discuss on a couple of things on that as well. So, looking forward to learn, like Ajeya said, obviously focus on principles, not on what they're saying, because that's going to be a recording. So, over to you.
Thank you so much, Darshan. Really appreciate it. Now, so we're going to start off with that. Has everybody taken a note of that?
Yes.
Okay. Am I able to flip this?
No, it's one side only.
It's only one side. That's okay. Okay. So while this is happening, okay. So Madhu is just going to write that aspects. Okay, while we're going to the 2 to 5 year plan, what it really means is that I'm going to take a 6-step approach and give you an understanding of what those 6 steps are, and essentially cover elements around the questions that they may have. Now, I want you to take a note. The first and primary question that I will ask to Darshan and Priya is, do you have any questions? Right? At this stage, usually. An Amway question would have been addressed because it's an MG2. At this stage, usually people would be in a situation where they've understood some portion of the business concepts and they need a little bit more understanding, right? So I don't know what Darshan and Priya are going to come back, but that is how I'm going to start. And I'm going to be here trying to show something on the board, and Madhu is going to be seated and Darshan and Priya are going to be seated. So usually the arrangement is that from body language perspective, we're seated right opposite each other, okay, just so that we can see the expressions, we can see the body language, we can see what they're actually talking about, okay? Now, first and foremost, so welcome Darshan and Priya. How was the day?
Yeah, it's been fantastic.
Great.
Thanks for asking. How about you?
Great, it was awesome. I had a pretty relaxing day. How's the little one? And I remember you mentioning about some vaccination.
Yeah, she's recovering well. Priya,
She's just discovering places in our house nowadays, so yeah, I'm doing well with her explanation.
Great. Must be a pretty awesome feeling to have a little one, roam around in the house, and it's what we felt. It is amazing because as they start to grow up, they start to talk. So the reason why I'm saying this is because I'm finding any connectors from any previous discussions that have happened in the past. So sorry, this follow-up is going to be like this. So every time I do that, I'm just giving you a little bit of a mindset in terms of why I actually did what I did. Okay? And the connection point is not I start afresh. I connect to something that I've already had a conversation around. Okay, so I'm coming back to that, and then I'm connecting to whatever they have mentioned with us. So common element, trust. Okay? Great. And so great, Darshan and Priya. So I know that in the previous two catch-ups we went through, the first catch-up was essentially for us, and any subsequent catch-ups, as I mentioned, was essentially for you. Now to get to know, the hows and the whats. I know we went through the business concepts, and there was an opportunity for you to actually come to the team evaluation and experience what we usually as an entrepreneur do. So just asking, what are you hopeful for in today's catch-up? What is your understanding so far, and do you have any questions for us?
Yeah, so obviously I understood about mentorship and what is this program is all about. And obviously that's one of the reasons why we're here, because we would like to know more about it. I obviously had a couple of questions. I know last time when we had a catch up, we talked about the Amway company, and at the time I mentioned that I really don't know much. However, obviously when I went back and I just realized I had an experience a couple of years back actually. Not a first-hand experience, but overhearing the conversations that are happening in the house. And apparently some of my relatives were kind of got involved into the business, and obviously it didn't work well for them. So I just realized that suddenly, yes, there were some thoughts about that. And I remember a few of the relatives talking about buying some products and all that. So last time when I said, obviously I didn't know much about it, but then I realized yes, there was some information that I came across in the past. But what we're really hopeful for moving forward is we want to know about what is our day-to-day activity in this business, and how much does it cost. I know you mentioned that it doesn't require a lot of capital, but I'm sure every business requires something. So we'd like to know what exactly does it take to, in terms of the investment or the daily or the monthly or whatever the expenses that will come up in the business. And about time commitment as well, because obviously having a young one at home, I work full-time, Priya works part-time. So obviously there are stuffs going on. I know you guys are in the same position, but we'd like to know upfront as well how long, what kind of time commitment we're looking at. Anything Priya would like to know?
I'm feeling very positive. I'm getting very good positive vibe around this business. But just what Darshan shared, want to know what our role is, and where to start from there.
Great. Any other questions?
Not at the moment, but if anything, is it okay to kind of ask questions?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Great. See, the reason why I have exhausted them with any questions is because I know where to place myself in the conversation for the questions that they've asked. This is what I would say next, right? Great questions, Darshan, Priya. I think it tells me that you actually looked a little bit deeper into the conversation, right? So a large portion of the questions you will get an answer to, and we are firm believers of laying the context before giving you the content, right? And I know some of your questions will get addressed today. This has part of the 2 to 5 year plan. In fact, that's an opportune time that you ask that questions. But at the same time, the cost, of course, as I mentioned, the cost is more from a time perspective. At the same time, there is an investment, which we will talk about in a whole exhaustive, should you earn the next door, right? So, are you comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Great, excellent. I do have a few questions for you, Darshan, Priya. So, again, taking the control back in. So that means you need to be in the driver's seat. That means I'm not here to address a candidate's question. I'm here to assess him for a certain mindset. So I'm actively vetting. If I start to address everything, which I will in my time, but if I start to address all of those questions, I'm passively soliciting. But what you need to do is actively vet, right? So going back to the conversation straight in. So I do have a few questions for you, Madhumita. So just wanting you to understand, what is your understanding about this opportunity? What do you think the opportunity is really about?
As far as what I understand from our previous discussions, that this opportunity is about getting mentored in life so that we can get coached to build an asset. Like, can give us the choices, is that right?
Absolutely. Great. And what is your understanding of what the asset is here?
My understanding, I guess, the focus is on building the network and obviously create those users who can buy the products like how we buy. Is that correct? That's what I understand. I think.
It's like having the people in the chain to develop a network of people.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing your understanding. Now, again, the reason I have asked this question is, understand this, not a lot of people will say what Darshan and Priya have actually said. Now, and it is right. What Darshan mentioned is what exactly I'm looking for. What is the opportunity about? The opportunity is about earning mentorship in life. And this is the point I would actually highly encourage that you write down, is earning mentorship in life so that you can be coached in the business, so that you can produce the desired outcome. That is what Darshan has just mentioned. I can tell you this, hand on heart, a lot of people will not actually say this. Now, understand this, the why I asked that question will address Darshan's question around experience. And I'll show you how, right? Because when Darshan has said it is about mentorship, he has answered this question. The opportunity is about mentorship. It's not about being influenced by somebody else who doesn't have the fruits or the results from the tree. Are you guys with me? Okay? Alright, getting back to the conversation. So, great. I think your understanding is great. And anything you want to add, Madhu, at this stage?
I think not to Darshan Priya, but just generally to the reason why we asked those couple of questions in the beginning is because, like I just said, we want to be in the driver's seat, we want to be in control of the conversation. We, as the people who are vetting the candidates, want to understand how much of what we've shared have they understood properly. If they haven't understood properly, there is no point taking them along further in the journey. I might as well hammer the old concepts in their head till they understand it crystal clear. And that's why Ajeya keeps saying the vetting process is not about 6 catch-ups. It could go to 10. We don't know. It depends. So it's important that we understand what do they mean by, what do they understand the opportunity, what is the business, what is an asset, and how money is made. And if the candidate does not respond appropriately, we don't make them wrong. We explain it further to them. But we do make a point to let them know that if they haven't understood, or if they feel there's a gap, or if they've forgotten from what we shared last time, we encourage them to check with us. We encourage them to ask us that question. Again, going back to the point of being in communication so that they can build that trust.
So we also shared a little bit of homework with them. Now, when I said them, it is not for this particular catch-up, it is for every catch-up. I will never let a candidate go without a homework. Now, homework is not set in stone. I won't give any homework to anything. That means you need to actually first be plugged into the team and global so that you know what homework to give. Because if somebody talks about prioritization being a problem, give him an appropriate audio to listen to. Somebody doesn't have his why clear, give him an appropriate audio to listen to. But for that, you need to be plugged in. Right? You can't just say, read this, you're not the boss. Right? You're identifying and looking at employees. I want you to understand this. If you didn't do that, you are nothing but looking for a management position. And you know what? You can be a manager because Amway exists in all 3 quadrants. Right, so the important aspect is for you to understand that. Okay, great. So just very quickly, Darshan and Priya, and I know you mentioned that you got an opportunity to actually go to the audio's Intentional Living and the book that you actually read, Business of the 21st Century. Is there something that you can actually share as a key takeaway?
There are lots of takeaways. I'm not sure if I can maybe cover. I really like the overview. John Maxwell, I've never heard him before. I never really knew him, to be honest. But yeah, what he shared, a couple of things about being consistent and how his life is an uphill battle. It's not just for a short time. It's a lifelong thing. And being living intentional life. So lots of things I've learned, obviously, from the audio, which has helped me to realize and rethink what I'm doing in my life.
Yeah, definitely. That audio is, I listened twice. It talks about how every day what we do has a result for our future, like intention is by choice. And how we can be intentional about not only in our career, but developing those relationships with our family, our children. So it's very helpful.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that takeaways. And Priya, you mentioned about, so this is where I want to step onto the gas. Okay? If somebody has said something, I don't want to just let it go. It doesn't fit right. And, this part is agreed upon. But so if Priya has mentioned something like a chain, it doesn't fit right. I just want to ask, can you elaborate a little bit about what you believe you mentioned from a chain perspective? What do you think, what's your understanding of a chain?
So having a people under people under people.
Okay, great. And how do you think the money would be made if, network grows? But how does the money get made?
Through product.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So I want to ask that question because by asking those questions, it addresses some of their own concerns. Okay, so I'm going to share how it is done. So great. Thank you so much for sharing that, Darshan and Priya, and thanks for your takeaways. At this point, I will definitely ask a couple of questions from Intentional Living. You know why? Because I want to know actually if the candidates have read it or listened to it. No, I'm serious.
Yeah.
Right? I would ask that. And you know what? If they didn't, I will apply some grace with standards. And I will mention to them that, hey, you know what? It doesn't look like at this stage we want to move forward. And I know you have mentioned about it, but we want you to take a few key takeaways. How about you actually spend some time listening to that audio once again? I won't make him wrong. I'll leave him empowered. I'm not saying that you didn't listen to it. Does that make sense? So you send him back. It's okay. Taking the food off the table. One of the principles. I'm applying that now. Right? By actually saying to a candidate, it's okay. He must have come from Pakenham. We say in South Bank. So he must have come from Pakenham. Doesn't matter. Right? It's okay. Don't feel sorry for it. He comes from Pakenham. I don't know.
Far away.
Sorry, moment. All right. So it's a 6-step process. Okay, and we'll just give you an understanding of what that is. Is everybody able to see this? Hopefully my handwriting is okay. But before I actually get to that, I just want to give you an understanding of where you are in the process, Darshan. Thank you so much for asking those questions. And as I said, if it's relevant to the conversation, which some of them are, and I will address that. Any subsequent questions, we will address it at a relevant point in time. Now, I just want to give you an understanding of where you are in the process. You, as I said, it may take you 4 to 6 weeks from a vetting perspective, and you're right now, you've gone through what we call as a brief coffee catch-up, where we understood a little bit about yourself, and then we went to what we call as the business concepts. Now, what we want to discuss, we also went through something called as team evaluation, which is what you gain the experience for. Today, you're here, where we're discussing about 2 to 5 years plan. There might be a couple of catch-ups from there on, where we may discuss about the overheads, where we may discuss about the partnership responsibilities, a bit of an aspects around, a mindset in these stages, right? That being said, today is about that, and we're going to talk to you about where you are. Are you clear about where you are? Right? Now, again, why am I saying this? Professional people do not have patience because young ones, they need to get back home. 45 minutes is a window that you might want to lock in, and that is the time that you are actually going to utilize to do that. And when you say that, they are aware of what they are in for. Otherwise, you know what they're thinking? How many more catches do I have to go to? Just give me that mentorship thingy. So I'm just kidding. It doesn't happen, but I'm just giving you some understanding. So give that so you know that people are not going to become impatient. Okay? Now, first step is I'm writing Amway, but I usually write supplier. Okay? Amway. And what I write down is called license. Ignore my spellings. They're usually right, but this marker is too huge. Okay, Amway, supplier, and what do you get? So the first step in the process is to get a license. What does that license do? By itself, the license does not mean anything. However, you get an opportunity to trade in 500 plus products, which is the products that you've actually got. And that's why I use the term trade. That means you can do what you want to do with that. But this is not earned. What do I mean by that? You can step into an Amway store, get yourself a license, ID your number. Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't do that, but if somebody did that, then that could be done. It is not an earned opportunity. What is an earned opportunity is from here on in. And I'm going to talk to you about that. Okay? The step number 2 is what I call mentorship. Mentorship. And in the brackets I write team and global. Okay, what is team and global? Of course, I talk a little bit about team and global. This is what I did. Nothing different to MG2. Just give a little bit more emphasis in terms of what team and global stands for. That is our system, a mentorship platform. What do I need to do as part of that? I need to inculcate what we call as habits. We can't make a change to ourselves without inculcating new habits. Okay? Now, what are the habits? There are daily, monthly, weekly, monthly, yearly. I usually say daily, monthly, and yearly, but weekly. Okay? Daily habits. What are those habits? First and foremost, 15 minutes of audio. Sorry, one audio a day, and 15 minutes of reading. Third one is being in communication. Very crucial. You can't be in communication, you can't build trust. You can't build trust, we both are not moving forward. Okay? That are the 3 daily habits. I want you to give me a call every single day, or drop me a text and let me know how you're going, how you're feeling. Those experiences, those previous elements, I Googled. Because when you have those conversations, that is what is going to build you trust. And that is what this is about. Weekly, we've got a Friday night hangout, and we've got a workshop. This happens every Friday, and I'm going to explain what happens there. We go there to learn from all other entrepreneurs. Right? Workshop, it's a formal event. Every single time. It's the same topic. However, different speakers. Right? Then I talk about monthly. In this case, if you have, I usually put that weekly into monthly and actually say this is 4 times in a month. 4 times in a month. Right? Or however you want to place it. In monthly, if you have a monthly catch-up that you want to embed that in, like a Zoom catch-up, put that in there. Okay? How are we going on time? Okay. Alright. Yearly, we've got FEC, Summer Conference, Winter Conference, and BBS. times 4. Why do I say 4? Because one of them is JSYD, so it's still a BDS, so you can actually say that there. Okay, this is what I say. Now then I ask a question. You know, Darshan and Priya, these are some of the things or activities that you will be looking to do as an entrepreneur to achieve the results that your mentors have, or something that you would want to have. Do you see that to be a challenge?
To be honest, yes.
Great. Great. What sort of a challenge do you see?
There's the time commitment, because obviously, being working full time and then obviously attending those weekly events twice a week, it's going to be a bit of a challenge.
Awesome. How many do you think we can commit to in the existing weekly or monthly events?
So,
How many are you in a position to commit to?
Priya, would you like to?
Maybe twice a month.
Excellent.
Yeah, Friday maybe, okay, Tuesday one or that might be a little bit of a challenge.
Excellent.
It's great that you say there will be a time challenge on those fronts. I just want to take a step back and understand why, in the first place, did you guys choose to build this business? Why are you here today?
Sorry, I'm just going to take a time out there. The reason why Madhu has asked that question is plain and simple. I'm not addressing you have to come to the third or the fourth or the second and the first. I'm not chasing. But what I'm asking is, you know what is your reason? Why are you here?
We're not here to convince the candidates that they need to be here 4 times. They need to convince us that they can make all the events, right? Because these are the steps you need to follow as part of the program. If you cannot commit to it, sorry, you don't get an opportunity. You do not win a spot in that. So you now tell us, why are you here in the first place? So
They're building that case for us now.
they're building the case, and we are putting ourselves back in the driver's seat. So same principle can be applied for time commitment, finance commitment, this commitment, that commitment. Candidates may throw anything. It is their choice. But we need to understand why we are here for. We are not here to convince them, but we are here to actively vet. So if you were the candidates, this is how we
So-
sort of...
Back to you, sorry.
So to have more time for the family.
So anything from you, Darshan?
Yeah, I guess that's the main reason we looking for an option really in life, because we now having a young one at home, having a family, the goals are different. So we want to create more choices for us.
Right. Excellent. Thank you for sharing, Darshan and Priya. Of course, when Madhu and I got launched in this business, and one of the biggest challenges that we had is to commit to the time. And with the little one, we had a challenge, but we need to understand, why do I need the results that my mentors have? The whole reason why we were building that asset for ourselves is so that when Beer, our son, is in a situation where he is going to school, I could spend all that time with them. And I believe that is our reason to be able to establish that. And why am I sharing that story? Is to shape the mindset for them to think the way that I'm thinking right now. Because I don't want to answer any question. And it's not rude, but what I'm saying is you need to apply that grace, right? So just going back to that particular aspect, so great, that's perfectly all right. Now, I just want to share a little bit. Can you get away with not doing any of this? Answer is yes. Will it have an impact on your 2 to 5 year plan? Absolutely yes. My question to you is, are you willing to have an impact on 2 to 5 year plan? Okay, well, that's perfectly all right. So if your 2 to 5 year gets to 10, do you think you're going to be patient to build that asset during the time that it is going to be there?
I think I just want to add in a point here. It also probably reflects that the candidate may not have understood the ESBI very well. Because if you're looking to build a business in the B quadrant, it requires effort. It cannot be built with a snap of a finger, right? So any business that you start, even this business, it starts with S quadrant, where you are the single most person on who the business will be dependent upon. As and when you grow, that's when your business goes into the B quadrant. But in the beginning, it will start with S quadrant. So to give the candidates a false hope that there's no effort involved, it's going to happen all smoothly, you sleep over at your home, and your asset is going to build, it will be wrong on our part. So we need to make that very clear in a nice manner. And that's why all the questioning happening in the background, to first understand where they are and then to shape their mindset accordingly.
Giving birth to a child is a responsibility, one that we shouldn't take lightly. New partners are children, right? And if you're taking someone through the process, it is as much a responsibility of yours as much it is for the rest of the people who are involved in the process to make sure that they're successful. And that is why this process is in place. It protects your heart. You know, Don and Karina have beautifully always mentioned that it protects your heart. And that is the whole reason. You don't want to build a business on relationships. And that is when you actually are a little bit high on grace. So you want to bring in that standards. So I can tell you hand on heart, yesterday, all the partners who had committed to this were in the entrepreneurship workshop. And you know what? Today, at 10 o'clock in the morning, they had an exam. I didn't ask them to come. If they would have asked me, I would have said, still, find a solution. But they're there. The reason why that is the case is because in the front end, we did put in a lot of effort and let them know that, hey, you know what, if you can't honor this, we can't invest our time in you to help you build that business. If there are other people who are investing, it's going to be wrong on our part to invest that time with you when somebody else is more deserving. Let's put it that way, right? Anything you want to add? Okay, cool. All right, so let's move on to the next subject. And I know that Darshan and Priya have said no to a few aspects, so I'm just going to come back to it. I know we are running short on time. So step number 3. We're going to be way over time. Is that okay? All right. Step number 3. Step number 3 is what we call as a personal use. Apologies for my handwriting. Personal use or personal circle. Okay. Now, what is that? Personal use is you consuming from your own store. Essentially, that can only be determined when you're willing to have, if a further door gets open for you, and you've gone through the vetting process and you earn a successful mentoring relationship, we will coach you on how to budget so that you know how some of your expenses in your household can be converted into an income. That is what we do here. Okay? And we don't say that you have to do 5 TVs. We don't say you have to do 100 TVs. What we say is your budget is going to let you know. And most often, that comes to 100 TVs. Okay? So, number 4 is what we call as retail. Now, number 4 is what we call as a retail. Now, there's not a lot of focus that we actually emphasize on here, but we say that you need to do 50 PBs. Our reasoning for that is very simple. If I owned a restaurant, I didn't know exactly what pizzas are made and what are the ingredients in the pizzas. Any customer who walks into my store and asks me, what do you recommend? And I'm blank, I'm as good as not being a business owner. So if you didn't have an experience around doing a retail, it's a problem because someday a partner might walk in and he might be the next switched on Nick and or you know all of us here, right? Have I been great at this? Answer is no. But you know what? Do I do that? Yes. It takes me a lot of effort, but I do that, right? Because if somebody walked in, you know what? You need to know what's in your store. You can't be blank about it. Anything you want to add? All right, number 5 and 6 will take you the most amount of time. What is 5? Is building yourself. yourself. Okay? What does that mean? That means you're essentially building yourself. That means this is you. Because now we're all talking legal structure, that's what we talk about. And we talk about you being at a 21%. That means, see, think about the challenges that you're going to face as a person who's actually going platinum. You will build yourself, your self-image, the way that you dress, the way that you. There's going to be a lot of changes. Was I the same 2 years ago? Answer is no. I couldn't have stood here and spoken to all of you guys. I can tell you this. Although my role as a project manager, I speak to 40, hundreds of people, right? And I'm not ashamed to admit it. But what I am is, you need to be vulnerable. You need to be vulnerable to lean into mentorship and get access to build yourself. Build yourself is you making that change for yourself so that you can lead somebody in that direction. Okay? And finally, the last step is basically where we talk about now. At this point, we talk about a lot of other elements. I'm just in the interest of time, I'm not going to cover that. But at this stage, we talk about how you can become a platinum, what is the team and global pins. You can talk about, now, again, don't worry about the framework, worry about the principles. Okay? And finally, in the last step, which is what we call as building teams. Building teams. Now, what does building teams mean? This is where you are actually building 21% organizations. And then we are talking now the Ruby volume on the side. So whatever the team and global is highlighting, so stick to that. And of course, before you make any changes, obviously check with your mentors and people who are coaching you. Now, that being said, that is how we function. What do we talk about there? Emerald bonus, 6%. Now be open about it. What do you get? 6%. If you make 100,000, I make $6,000 out of not your 100,000 over and above it. Well, it's a fair deal, and I help you make that 100,000. So be open about it. What do you get? What do they get? Be transparent. Be vulnerable. And that is what leadership is about. Now, finally, this is essentially what we call as a 2 to 5 year plan or roadmap to success. 5 and 6 are going to take you the most amount of time. And what are the challenges that you're going to face? A lot of them. But you need to be willing to know what are your shortcomings so that you can actually fix it for yourself. And that nobody will tell. Or your mentors can tell only and only if you are in communication. Because without communication, you don't have trust. You don't have trust, your mentors can't build an asset without coaching you properly. A lot of times people walk in and say, tell me what you are doing. You know what? You're not open to listening to that feedback. Right? And that is the biggest challenge. And that can only happen when we go through the communication bit. So focus on being in communication. Take genuine interest in your new partner's lives. They bought a house, hey, you know what? Talk about that. It is okay not to talk about business for a while. Anything you want to add?
I think at this point, we make it very clear to the candidates that these are the activities that they will need to perform should they successfully qualify to earn the mentorship. And what really will be the biggest challenge for them if they say, it looks great and I don't think it's going to be a challenge. We let them know. We still challenge the thought process and say that your biggest challenge will be you yourself. Because you will have to put in that effort to build those habits. You know, there may be days where you will feel like not listening to audios, not reading a book, just falling back into your default habit. So to be conscious of that, to be aware of that, and then think and then commit. At this stage, as people who are taking the candidates through the process, Ajeya and I don't commit to anything. We haven't spoken about what will be our role. And we haven't even spoken about what will be your role. These are the activities that you're going to do, right? So just making it really crystal clear, just harping upon it, and also towards the end, we may paraphrase and again ask them, so now, do you understand what's on offer? Do you understand what this business is about? Do you understand what is an asset in this business? Some people believe that asset is having a network of people. That's wrong. that's absolutely wrong. What will you do with 100 people in your organization if everybody is doing 0 PV? So asset is, so that's where we understand the definition and correct them if we feel there's a sort of, not aligning with what we understand. And how do they make income? We start with this, we end with this, and we hammer this concept till we, Ajay and I, fully are confident that the candidate has understood, that they're speaking the language that we are speaking. Sometimes they may use words like change, they may use words like, somebody's making more money. If somebody uses the word like change, I ask them, so if, let's say you are the business owners and you are part of our business and somebody else is part of you, if you disappear, do you believe Ajay and I will not make any money? Because you know what, in chain, if one loop breaks, the chain is broken. Do you believe that if you disappear, that we will stop making money? No. Our business is not dependent upon you. So do not use the word chain. It is not chain marketing or anything like that.
And I think just coming back to that aspect, right? And so I just want to, at this point, we actually circle back and talk about results our mentors were able to create, the influence that they had in our lives, as a result of which our relationships changed, as a result of which the results that we produced changed. Now, when all of that happened, I'm indirectly addressing the first question, which is the experience and influence that Darshan and Priya raised, right? Now I'll touch a little bit more deeper into it, and then I'm going to ask, hey, you know what, those people that have influenced you or you've gotten influenced by the internet, do you think they have the results? Or do they know somebody who have the results? Do they know somebody who knows somebody who has the results? Answer that question, it's okay, right? And if the answer to that is no, he has answered his own question. Now, think about it, day to day. I could have sat there and explained that overall, but you know what? It gives you a very good picture. So I carried on with my own follow-up until such time now. They don't have a question on day to day because that is what day to day looks like. What's my role? It's clear. That is your role. That is your 2 to 5 year plan. Cost? I already told them. Hey, you know what? I think then I'm going to come back to this and say, we talked about influence, we talked about experience. I hope you understand why it is important to have a primary influence in life so that you can produce the results of someone that you're being influenced by. If somebody who's influencing you right now are those the results that you would like to produce? That's one. Going back to day-to-day and what's my role, I hope, Priya, that is clear for you in terms of what the day-to-day and what's the role look like for you as a business owner within this opportunity, right? Most people will say yes, but I'm just in the interest of time, I haven't elaborated a lot more on that. But when it comes to cost, I know that that is an outstanding question, and as I said, it is important for you to be patient so that we can give you some content before we can give you, we can give you some context before we can give you some context, right? Okay, you get the point, right? Where was I? Okay, so anyway, going back to that little point. So that's essentially where we are. And I just want you to understand a few things, right? Seek first to understand. So when somebody asks me a question, I understood. So tell me a little bit more about chain. So that is the first principles that were applied. Grab on is essentially
grab on and add on simply implies that if somebody has said something which is not in alignment with what you have shared, we fall on the sword, which means we apologize. For instance, when Priya said something about chain marketing, we could just say, hey, we apologize if we gave you an impression that this business is about chain marketing. So I'm not saying that you are wrong or you understood wrong. I did not communicate properly. So grab on what she has said, apologize, and then add on, and then explain what the model is actually about.
Great, excellent. And obviously we've spoken about graceful standards quite a few times. Committing last. Now committing last is, at this moment, this is what I do, right? And therefore I share that, take the food off the table. Now this is what I would do usually, right? Hey Darshan and Priya, I understand that this may be a bit of a challenge. I want you to take 24 hours, take 48 hours, think about it, and see if you're in a position to commit to this. Because without that, we will not be in a position to extend an offer into mentorship because it will not produce the desired results that you want in your life. I've taken the food off the table. It's not dependent on me anymore. You know what? 24 hours later, if they don't come back, or 48 hours later, if they don't come back, it's not done. What I do is follow up with an SMS or a call or whatever that you guys do, right? It's either way, be in communication. Now, leave them empowered. Don't make them wrong. Man, you can't do anything in life. No. Don't make them wrong. Man, you can't do anything in life. No. Right? So what you're doing is you're leading them empowered. Hey, we respect your decision. It's perfectly alright.
What's the phone call? What's the phone call of the message?
What's the message?
Yeah.
What's the any message, Nick, depending on what was the conversation that was going on. For instance, if the conversation is about this and we've asked them to actually think about what is going on, what that means is that they're going to reach out to us and let us know if they want a further door being opened. Now, you may not have to use that principle, but you may not have to use that framework. But sometimes Darshan and Priya would be like, hey, you know what, this looks awesome. You want to progress to the next step. Now, this is where I commit last. And this is what I say. Hey, I understand that you're excited at this stage, and I want you to have a think about it and give me some understanding that if we, Madhu and I, were to take some time out from our schedules, would you value a conversation like that? Right? If the answer to that is yes, then my next question would be, are you in a position to prioritize Thursday? Let me have a look at my calendar, and I'm going to bring up my calendar and say, at this stage, it looks like Thursday, 6 o'clock is going to be an opportune time. You know what? I haven't given him a choice because I've already asked him that. You know what? If I have created enough value, he or any candidate who is actually going through that particular process is likely to say yes. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right? So I know that we are grossly overboard, but anything that you want to add, Darshan, here?
Just one thing, if in case you decide to catch up again, the fixed time, what would be the homework at this stage?
Any homework. So for instance, you've actually said that you can't prioritize time. I'll give you something on prioritization. You've said that it is chain marketing. I will actually give you something that gives you an understanding of a success story. Dean and Masi's success story, I don't know, Rashmi Jyotipraka's success story, Ganesha's success story, something that gives you faith that it will be successful, right? Because you've said it is chain marketing and we have actually said that it's chain links. So whatever the conversation is going on, again, this is a framework, right? You can apply just common sense. Any audio will do as long as it's a homework. I always want to give a homework. You know why? I'm checking their accountability.
What about book?
You can give book. If somebody has said, hey, you know what, I don't think I can actually work with people. You know that he's not a go-giver. Give him the book. Ask him to read. I say,
One key point to remember is you may want to give a book, but if your next catch-up is probably happening within 48 hours, then you also have to think if the candidate would be in a position to finish reading the book and understand the concept. You don't want them to just flip the pages and come back and say, I've read. It's not a really value add. But for instance, for some reason, if the appointments are happening over a week's time, book is a great idea. So that their mind is filled with positive thoughts, so that they don't go back to any random person or Google and start Googling stuff. They will be focused on completing the homework that you've given. Sometimes we give book plus couple of audios. If we feel there's too much time gap, we want them to be focused on what's really productive.
Either there's a gap in the time or the gap in the understanding. So either way, we feed them with a lot of information. Okay. So anything, Darshan, Priya, you want to add?
I guess that's pretty much it. Considering time, we may not take questions. But yeah, thank you very much, guys. I'll give it to you guys.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. This is again just a framework. Don't have to be very legalistic that this is what you need to do. Look at the candidate. If he's a student, don't say you have to be there. Tomorrow's an exam. You have to be there. What you're actually saying is you're applying those principles. But that being said, Madhu and I have thoroughly enjoyed speaking with you and hopefully we've been able to add some value. And thank you so much to the leadership and each one of you guys sitting in at 10:30 and listening into what we have shared. Once again, our utmost gratitude to all the leadership for inviting us here. And thank you so much, Megha, for hosting us. I really appreciate it.
I think I just echo Ajeya's sentiments. We are totally privileged, honored, and it just made us feel very special. All the things that we have learned in our journey, watching all these leaders, it's just very surreal to stand in front of them and be able to share. So thank you so much. We will go back home with a lot of fond memories tonight.
Wow, that was phenomenal sharing. Personally, I have learned so many good pointers. Can't wait to go out there and implement. Definitely it will be such a value-added talk because it's going to take our process to the next step. Learning lots from you guys. Now, before I conclude, who is doing our next Tuesday workshop?
Dr. Bindu!
Another amazing couple, Dr. Vidyut and Kamalika. Dr. Vidyut have finished his PhD in mechanical engineering and working as a research fellow in Aramaic University. Kamalika background, she has a background in English literature, right now full-time mom and entrepreneur. When they started this business, Dr. Vidyut was about to finish his PhD. They have a great learning so far, so it will be another amazing night. With that, we conclude tonight's workshop and have a safe day back home.